If you look for Rosh Hashanah in the Torah, you won't find it. You'll only find this in the book of Numbers. On the first day of the 7th month, Yom Truah, shofar blowing day. That's it. No apples and honey, no book of life. It's not even Rosh Hashanah, it's not even the first of the year. So where did all this come from? In 586 BCE, the Babylonian Empire conquered Jerusalem and destroyed the Holy Temple and exiled the leaders of the community back to the imperial capital of Babylon. In the middle of the city of Babylon rose a great, mighty, man-made mountain, the Ziggurat, literally the Tower of Babel. And on the 1st of Tishrei, the Babylonian Empire celebrated the New Year's festival by renewing their covenant with Marduk as the patron god of the empire and crowned the emperor Marduk's son and sanctified the power of Mesopotamian might to conquer all humanity. Our ancestors, exiled to Babylon, we witnessed this rite, and we were overwhelmed. So we did what Jews of every generation did. We stole it. We borrowed the festival, washed it clean of its pagan symbols, and made it into a Jewish holiday. Rosh Hashanah. In answer to the narrow nationalism of the pagan rite, we crown no earthly king today. Instead, each one of us is crowned as God's image in the world, and we crown God King of the universe, Melech al kol haaretz. And we sanctify our people, our community, not to conquer or to rule or to subjugate humanity, but to serve the ideal of one unified community of men and women. Mekadesh Yisrael. Melech al kol haaretz, Mekadesh Yisrael. Today we will affirm two core Jewish values: sacred tribalism and sacred globalism. It is a human need to belong. Belonging is a deeply ingrained human impulse. Our species was born in Africa, and for 500,000 years, our ancestors lived as nomads on the plains of East Africa. It was a harsh life. The only way that a tribe could survive was together, in solidarity and in mutual support. Sheer existence demanded cooperation, solidarity, and loyalty. So over time, evolution selected those who abided by the imperatives of tribal cohesion. Tribal loyalty became biologically encoded within us. According to brain science, human bonding, human connection releases neurochemicals, oxytocin and dopamine into the brain, and that gives us a sense of safety, satisfaction, and well-being. An infant is soothed when held. Kids find each other on a playground and organize spontaneous games. Lovers hold each other in ecstasy. Home, family, community, connection, communion are universal sacred values because they're deeply rooted in human biology. Connection is a biological imperative. We are programmed biologically to live in tribes. When I was a kid, I loved watching Westerns. Remember Westerns? Cowboys and Indians. In those movies, the cowboys, who were European colonists, were civilized. They were the good guys. They lived in towns. They had guns and law and tools. The Indians were always portrayed as evil savages, living off the land, half naked, attacking the wagon train with bows and arrows. Turns out, history is more complicated than that. In 18th century America, European colonial society and Native American societies lived side by side. Colonial society was in fact technologically advanced and by material standards much wealthier. But the strange fact was that over the course of American colonial history, no Indians ever defected to join colonial society. while many, many colonists went to join the Indians. The colonials occasionally tried to welcome Native American children into their midst, but they couldn't persuade them to stay. Benjamin Franklin observed the phenomenon in 1753 when he wrote, "When an Indian child has been brought up among us, taught our language, and habituated to our customs, if he goes to see his relations and makes one Indian ramble with them, there's no persuading him ever to return." During the wars with the Indians, many European settlers were taken prisoner and held with Indian tribes. After a while, they had plenty of chances to escape and return, and yet they did not. In fact, when they were rescued, they fled and hid from the rescuers. Sometimes the Indians tried to forcibly return the colonials in a prisoner swap, and still the colonials refused to go. In one case, the Shawnees Indians were compelled to tie up some European women in order to ship them back. And when they returned, the women escaped the colonial towns and ran back to the Indians. Even as late as 1782, the pattern was still going strong. The French explorer Hector de Crèvecoeur wrote, "Thousands of Europeans are Indians today, and we have no examples of even one of these natives having from choice become European." Native cultures were communal. In the tribe, life was shared. It was a life of mutual support, a life that resonated with the deep human need for connection, solidarity, and closeness. The Europeans brought notions of individualism, autonomy, and privacy. And the more we progress and the more prosperous we become, the more we separate from one another. The more divided and isolated we become. The more we distance ourselves from the deep human need for tribal connection. According to author Sebastian Junger, a third of American vets returning from Afghanistan and Iraq have filed for permanent disability due to post-traumatic stress disorder. Strange fact is, only 10% ever saw combat. What's the source of the stress? Speaking to these veterans, Junger heard stories of the camaraderie, the bonding among soldiers, the devotion to the collective purpose, the sense of identity within the platoon. A platoon is a tribe. Men and women working selflessly to protect one another, put their lives into each other's hands. Each one is needed. Selfless loyalty is expected. Semper Fi, valor, self-sacrifice, duty is honored. But upon returning home, these same soldiers encountered a very different experience. Soldiers went from a world in which they were united, interconnected, and indispensable to one in which they felt isolated, without purpose, without identity, and bombarded with images of politicians and civilians screaming at one another. It was the contrast that drove them crazy. We humans are programmed to live as tribes. In moments of great adversity, we return to that sensibility. We become a tribe again. A couple of weeks ago, a young friend of mine asked me, what was it like in the days right after 9/11? Must have been scary. And I remember those days right after 9/11? Remember those days? It wasn't so scary. It was actually remarkable. Because in the days following 9/11, all the boundaries that separated us were suddenly gone. And for a brief shining moment, we were a national community again. We weren't strangers to each other. Waiting in line at the bank or the supermarket, people chatted with each other. There was a sense of solidarity and a sense of shared courtesy. People were just nicer to each other. And when we sang "God Bless America," we felt it. We meant it. There was something remarkable in the air. Trauma brings us together. Trauma brings us together because in a moment of disaster, we remember how much we need each other. We find comfort in each other's presence. We recall a deep human memory. We are a tribe. We know this. We Jews have lived as a tribe since our beginning. There was no room in American culture for a tribal identity, so when we settled here, we called ourselves a religion and built a communal home in the synagogue. But religion, for Jews, was secondary to a much deeper connection. The sense that we belong, the sense that we are responsible for each other, the sense that we share history and we share destiny and we share stories and we share customs and we share ways of living. How was it that my mother could board a cruise ship and within a half an hour know who all the Jews were? Call it peoplehood, community, culture. We are a tribe. And we gave the world a language for this. Mamlechet Kohanim v'Goy Kadosh. Said God to the Jewish people, you shall be my treasured possessions among all the peoples. Indeed, all the earth is mine, but you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. We are a chosen people, which is to say that our solidarity, our connection, we identify the divine. Here is the genius, though. Here is the genius of the Jewish heart. I begin in the tribe. I am born into the security of my tribe. My identity is nurtured in the tribe. My sense of efficacy, of personal significance, my place in the world, they're all fostered by the tribe. I am rooted in the tribe. And so every Rosh Hashanah, I return here to my tribe to restore and renew my connection. But the tribe is only my spiritual beginning, not my destination. To live exclusively in the tribe, to live exclusively for the tribe, is parochial and narrow and narcissistic. I give myself to the tribe. If I give myself only to the tribe, then the tribe becomes an idol that I worship. The Talmud teaches, Haomer shali shali v'shelcha shelcha ze midah benoni. The one who says what is mine and what is yours, that's the ordinary ethic. But then the Talmud goes on and says, no, not an ordinary ethic. Ze midat stom. This is the way of Sodom and Gomorrah. This is the ethic of destruction. When I draw lines and I say, these are mine and those are not. When I declare, these I care for, but those I don't. When I say, I know who I am because I know who I'm not, I bring destruction. When I draw lines through humanity, I bring death. So here are the founding words of this people. The mandate upon which we began. Lech lecha me'artzecha me'eretz moladetcha. God said to Abraham, and to you, and to me, go forth from your home, from your birthplace, from your father's house. Leave your tribe. Step out of the tribe and go to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you, hayeh bracha, be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you, and all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you. Leave the tribe and enter the world and be a blessing. Jewish people began the day Abraham heard this call to be a blessing. To be a blessing to whom? To his own? To his family exclusively? To his tribe exclusively? Not even to God exclusively. That the families of all the earth will be blessed by you. Judaism gave the world sacred tribalism. It also gave the world sacred globalism. The tribe is sacred because it has purposes beyond itself. Its purpose is to fashion human beings into vessels of divine blessing for the world. The tribe's purpose is to shape and form and inspire responsible global citizens. Rabbi Schulweis taught us this. Taught us that the unique contribution of Judaism to human consciousness was the worship of one God of all creation. But loyalty to the creator of God of the world, it demands responsibility for the world, a concomitant responsibility on the part of the believer. We worship a God of all the world. Anything short of that makes God into an idol. So the traditional bracha says, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam. I bless you, God, ruler of the universe. Not Melech Yisrael. Not Melech Encino. Not even Melech America. Melech ha'olam. Ours is no tribal God. And our vision is not restricted to our own. We are the custodians of the world and all of its inhabitants. For Christians, this is 2016 AD, Anno Domini, year of our Lord. For Christians, the new year is counted from the birth of Jesus. For Muslims, it's counted from 622 when Muhammad's Hijrah, his flight from Mecca to Medina. But Jews celebrate not the birth of a Jewish Savior, not even the birth of the Jewish people. For Jews, today is Hayom Harat Olam. Today is the birthday of the world. The first 11 chapters of the book of Genesis don't deal with a Jew. Not with Abraham or Isaac or Jacob or Moses or Aaron, but with Adam, the archetype of humanity. Adam is not a Jew. His name derives from the word Adamah, which means the earth. The sages asked, from which place in the universe was this earth taken? Was it taken from Athens or Rome or Jerusalem? And the answer is it was taken from the four corners of the world, north, south, east, west. And what was the color of the clay from which man was formed? And the answer was, it was black, and it was white, and it was brown, and it was red, and it was yellow. There are traditions that believe that some were formed by God. The Egyptian Pharaoh believed he himself was God. The king of Sumeria believed that they were God. But in Judaism, every single human being is created by God. Everyone. Rich and poor, mighty and weak, powerful and innocuous. Adam is not created as a different species. Adam is one. There is one humanity and one universe and one God and one universal obligation. In the Midrash it was written, when the Holy One created the world, he took Adam around to see the trees of the garden, which included the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. And he said to Adam, behold my work. All of this I created for you. Take care, do not destroy it. For if you do, there is no one beside you to repair it. The charge is addressed to everyone, to every human being, so that every human being can say, Bishvili nivra ha'olam, for my sake was the whole world created. The rabbi said, why did God create just one man? It would have been so much more efficient to create a whole bunch of them. And the answer is so that nobody could say, my ancestor is greater than yours. Taught Rabbi Showeiss, Judaism gave the world not ziggurats or pyramids or mausoleums, but compassion and responsibility. We gave the world sacred universalism. Are we a tribe or are we a universal people? Are we Jews tribal or are we global? And the answer is yes. Globalism grows in the soil of the tribe. From the tribe I learn who I am. From the tribe I learned that I belong. From the tribe I learned that I am valued, that I can touch the world and change the world. From the tribe I learned to value and care and protect the other. Because my tribe and its ways are precious to me, I respect and cherish the gestures of every other tribe. I know what shul means to me, so I respect the church and the mosque and the ashram. I know what Shabbos candles mean to me, what the shofar and the apples and the honey and the lulav and the esrog mean to me, so I respect and I cherish Holy Communion and Ramadan. From my tribe, I grow into a citizen of the world. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? But if I'm only for myself, then what am I? Global consciousness is the religion of my tribe. Global consciousness is what my tribe exists for. If I say to my child, value the tribe, he will say to me, why? Why be Jewish? But if I say to my child, through this tribe and its ways, I learn to shape the fate of the world, the child understands. If I say to the child, this tribe holds me responsible for the shape of the world, for the state of humanity, for the dignity of all humanity, the child understands. We have heard that this generation, the young of this generation, are self-absorbed and self-involved and indifferent, their noses always stuck in a screen somewhere. Let me tell you something, that's nonsense. Not the kids I know, not the kids I meet, that's nonsense. They're waiting. They're waiting to participate in a grand project of redemption. They're waiting for a chance, an opportunity, an invitation to save and change the world. And they want it expressed in a Jewish narrative. We are global and we are tribal. Tribalism is the way to globalism, and globalism is the way to protect tribalism. We can't be anything but both. So we say, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Listen, Jews, Adonai, the God of our tribe, the God who called us into being, the God who shaped us and protected us is Elohim, God of all. Adonai Echad. That God is one. That God is one. Now I know what you're thinking. You think, okay, Rabbi, enough religion. It's an election year, and I want to know what you think. I know that's why you came today. I know you want me to give an endorsement, a comment, an analysis, and I wouldn't deny you. So here's what I think. This election isn't about Secretary Clinton. This election isn't about Mr. Trump. This election is about change and how we live with change and what you do when the world around you is changing too fast for you to keep up. Go back just 20 years. In 1997, Bill Clinton was inaugurated for his second term in the presidency. The internet was in its infancy, 20 years ago. Yahoo was founded in 1994. That same year, IBM released the first smartphone. Amazon, eBay, and Craigslist in 1995. Google was launched only in 1998. 20 years ago, manufacturing employed the greatest number of people in the United States, followed by retail trade, healthcare, hotel, and food services, according to the census data. Between 1997 and 2012, the largest employment growth occurred in healthcare, which added 5 million jobs and is now the top sector in the employment in the country. Meanwhile, between 1997 and 2012, manufacturing saw the loss of 5.5 million jobs, a plunge of 33%. Where did they go? Some went overseas. Many more were automated out of existence, and many more yet will. According to the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics, with the development of artificial intelligence in the next decade, we can expect automation to assume 45% of the work activities currently paid by paid employees. Anybody here take Uber to shul today? In 2 years, you will take Uber in a driverless car. I check out of the supermarket in a checkerless self-service booth. I do my banking in a checkerless ATM. Within 10 years, 45% of those functions will be done solely by machine, which means in 10 years, you will have an automated rabbi giving the sermon. That's 20 years of remarkable economic change. But wait. In 1997, we were solidly white majority nation. According to the United States Census Bureau, in 2014, there were 20 million children under 5 years old living in the United States, and 50.2% of them were minorities. parents who identified their children as Hispanic origin were the largest minority, making up 22%, followed by African Americans, who made up 15%. The minority population is currently 38% of the population of America. By 2060, which is in 40 years, it will rise to 56%. When that happens, the Census Bureau says, quote, no group will have a majority share of the total, and the United States will become a plurality nation of racial and ethnic groups. The economy has changed. The population has changed. The culture has changed. How do Americans experience that? How do Americans experience a world in which the diner on the corner is now a sushi bar, and the hardware store, where the hardware store used to be, is now a yoga studio, and they're building a mosque in the neighborhood next door? It took 300 years for this country to end slavery. We've gone from civil rights to feminism to marriage equality for gays and lesbians to acknowledging the transgendered and differently gendered, all in 50 years. How do you experience that? What happens to people when they feel that their town, their neighborhood, their world is no longer familiar? What happens when they feel homeless in their own homes? What happens when they feel lost, when they've lost control of the world, lost control of the conditions of their own existence? They turn inward. They turn tribal. It's not a trauma like 9/11, but it's trauma nonetheless. At this moment, a large portion of the American electorate is turning tribal. When people feel threatened, when they experience the diffusion of identity, when they get fearful, they hunker down to protect what's left. They get resentful and angry and divide the world into neat binaries, us and them. Our people, those people, citizens, aliens. It's the only way to make sense, to get some order out of all of this. And they push out the other, because the other is the source of my dizziness, the disorientation of a world out of control. Build a wall, he says. Build a wall. It's the one consistent message that Mr. Trump has kept since the beginning of his campaign, and it's the message that receives the loudest applause in his rallies. And I understand it. A wall isn't just about keeping people out. It's about keeping something in. In previous eras, towns had walls, not just to protect them from invaders, but to create a bounded community, a place that is mine, a place that is familiar, a place that is home, a place where I matter, a place where I count, a place where I exist. Build a wall. Because the world I live in is just too confusing. It's changing too quickly. It's strange to me. But here is the fact of this election. The change, it's not going away. Neither candidate can stop it. If anything, it's going to be more acute. More jobs will be lost to automation. And there will be more diversity of races and cultures, in demographics, in style of life. More diversity, more differences. For that portion of our population, it will seem only more unfamiliar and more confusing and more threatening. And they will get angrier. Whoever gets elected is going to face that fact. And that's the biggest issue of the election. Presidents don't only make policy. Presidents make a narrative. This country is a narrative. We are not bound together by ethnicity or religion or language or even values. We're bound together by a narrative, and that narrative is fraying now. It is strained. The task of the next president of the United States, be it Clinton or Trump, is going to be a reassertion of that narrative that might bring us together. Either that or we will disintegrate as a society. And that's not beyond possibility. We Jews, we have a great stake in this. No country has more safe, given us more freedom and security and possibility than this country. And we have something to teach. And here is what we have to teach America. When that narrative is asserted, let it be a narrative of a generous tribalism. A tribe turned outward. A tribe dedicated to healing and protecting and serving the world. A tribe which refuses to be indifferent to the weakest among us. A tribe which will not castigate, nor vilify, nor seek to destroy the other because we were slaves in the land of Egypt and we know the soul of the stranger. And here's what's amazing. America knows this narrative. America learned it from our Bible deep, 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 deep down. America knows this narrative because what makes America great? We are the only nation in history that ever marshaled its enormous military, cultural, and economic power to redeem other nations and ask nothing in return. The only nation in all of history dedicated to serving the ideal of democracy, even if it was against our particular economic and political interests. The only nation in the world bound together by a narrative of freedom and human solidarity and the dignity of persons. That's American exceptionalism. And that's the narrative that the next president, be it Clinton or be it Trump, needs to articulate every single day. Every single day. The last time we were this divided, the last time we were this broken as a society, the last time we stood on the verge of losing the integration, the wholeness of American culture, there stood a great president named Abraham Lincoln. And he, with his mighty words and his mighty heart, held this country together. With these words, with malice toward none, and charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in and bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and among nations. I suggest that those words be stenciled on the front of the White House, so that whoever wins the election will keep those words sacred. With malice toward none and charity toward all, we seek a just and lasting peace among ourselves, else we lose the gift of this mighty country. Please God, amen. We will take a moment and then conclude our services together.